Hey Biggies, welcome back to the Beer Merchant's Tap. Today we're doing a video that has been in the planning for about 5 years, but Ned, our partner in crime, has been too busy launching his new book. This is the best ways to match beer and cheese. So before we get properly stuck in, tell us about the book and why you're here.
The book is called Cheesemonger's History of the British Isles, so now you know what it's about.
Yep.
I don't have to tell you anything else. But I will say that it is a way of telling the story of Britain and Ireland through the medium of cheese.
And there's no finer medium except perhaps beer.
Beer.
Yeah,
quite.
So Ned and I go way back. We did what I would consider on the very avant-garde of beer and food matching, where we matched beer, cheese and chocolate. In some cases, all three together.
Yes.
And it kind of works. So you're in for a treat. But before we get to that, should we have a little chat about the best ways to match beer and food initially, and then we'll apply that to cheese?
Absolutely.
So in my mind, and in Brad's mind, I'm sure, you've got the compare, the contrast, and what we call the 2 + 2 = 5, the Radiohead method.
Wow, what's that? I like that. Can you explain that more to me?
That's where you put two things together and end up with a third thing
Yes.
you didn't expect.
Yes.
So hopefully we're going to come across that at some point in these matches. Are those ways of doing it applicable to cheese too?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I suppose I would call it, I say contrast, complement, and the third flavour.
The third way.
Third way. Yeah, the elusive third way.
Yeah. And we're going to start smooth and creamy, right?
Smooth and creamy.
Okay.
Yeah.
Brad, could you do the favours?
Sure can.
You'll notice the delicious glasses Brad's about to pour this into, which are available on our web shop, just in case you're wondering. So we're going to start with a geuze. So a geuze is a lambic. It's blended between 3 different ages of lambic, usually young, about 2 years old and about 3 years old. This one is 2 years blended, so super young, sweet lambic, which has lots of sugar in, and then really, really old lambic from the blender's favourite blend, barrel. And in this case, it's bone or bone, depending on whether you're right or wrong. What would you put with a geuze generally?
Well, it's a challenging one, the geuze, because it's so distinctive.
Yep.
I would like to give it a go with this amazing cheese, the Gorwith Caerphilly, which is kind of 3 cheeses in one. So what you have in the centre is a kind of quite fresh, acidic, quite firm textured cheese. So it might complement beautifully the sharpness of the geuze. Around the edge, what we call the breakdown, because it's being broken down and ripened, is more creamy and rich. So that could work as a sort of contrast to the flavour. Then round the outside is this rind, which we should not cut off, which has a kind of earthy, rich, mushroomy flavour. I liken it to eating a country church, if you've ever done that.
Eating a country church?
I've taken the odd bite out of the religious establishment,
yeah,
sure.
Or a damp hassock.
It's good because when we describe geuze, we're like, well, it tastes like eating a horse blanket. Or chewing on manure.
Yeah,
so this is just going to be a match made in heaven.
Same kind of
It's like
thing.
you're throwing shit at a church.
Yeah.
I'm a bit of a cheese virgin compared to you guys, so I'm very excited by the sort of trifecta of different flavours that are going on within this cheese.
I was going to say, is it true that cutting the nose off a cheese is poor form because that's supposed to be the best bit?
Well, it's not so much that it's the best bit, it is poor form, because if we kept cutting like this, then say Brad here is on the end of the line, he'd get this.
He'd get the gnarly
which
bit,
would just be a lump of rind.
The fresh crumbly
You wouldn't
bit
get any
in
of the fresh crumbly bit, you wouldn't get any of the bit. All you'd get is eating a country church.
Wow, just that church.
A novel
gnawing on
experience,
brick.
but not, as rich as...
Yeah.
So what... Yeah, in the north, by the way, they call cutting the nose off snebbing. So they even have a word for it, to sneb the cheese. He's a right snebber.
He's a snub a guy by
It's like
snebbing.
smiting something.
Like smiting, but
You've
you've snebbed them. And that would be, looked down upon, and they wouldn't be invited back.
Well, God
but
forbid.
I am going to sneb the hell out of this cheese so that we
I've
can
never
eat
liked
some.
you, Ned.
Sorry. Just going to do that.
I hear you're known as Ned the Sneb.
Ned the
Certain
Sneb.
parts of the cheese.
I am. Yeah, we should just try the centre with the beer and then see what the whole thing does. That would be interesting. So it's really advanced, so creamy. It's got what I call it Goldilocks texture. It's very mild, typical of a lot of English territorials, which is a style that includes Caerphilly, Red Leicester, Lancashire.
Right.
Often quite mild and delicate.
Session cheeses.
Session cheese. I've been saying session cheese for ages, and it hasn't been. You heard it here first.
Yeah.
Session cheese.
And we're back in
I love it.
We're with you. So that's perfect with the mild acetic character, the fresh lemon stuff.
Yeah.
It's a really nice way of rounding out the sharpness of the geuze.
It's sort of like sherbet dip dabs for grown-ups, isn't it? There's another thing I hear beer people say, particularly, is cutting. That's another, which I don't so much hear in the wine world, maybe because the acidity or the bitterness is lower. But that cutting to me means that the bitterness is cutting through the fattiness, particularly around the edge, and clearing my palate really nicely.
It's a great way to wash it away. All you're left with actually is the churchiness.
It's the churchiness.
Yeah.
I would say that this is maybe a little bit intense for the Caerphilly.
Just a shade.
Like, you know how you were saying we're getting left with the church, but less of the other stuff. And there is another overarching principle for me in all booze and food matching, is that they match in intensity. And because what I think is, someone might not like the cheese, and when the beer takes away that unpleasant flavour, they mistake the feeling of relief for one of pleasure and go, that's a really good match.
Yeah.
And geuze is challenging for people.
Yeah, but maybe in my excitement, remembering I had this bottle in my stash, I perhaps overcooked the goose and should have gone for a fresher, less ambitious geuze. Okay, so now we're going to move on to what is one of my favourite food and beer matches, which is West Coast IPA and Big Old Cheddar. So what is it about amazing mature cheese and IPAs that work so well?
Well, mature cheeses tend to be more intense. So they've got some grunt. So something like a West Coast IPA that's got some grunt. You know, we were talking about that intensity. Matching the intensity is good. Monty's is a cheese with considerable authority. So, you know, I'm not worried.
Can a cheese have authority?
This one does.
I love the way you talk about cheese.
They're like people to me.
Yeah, they are.
Well,
they really
actually, with the cheddars, they're like parts of an orchestra. So there's another famous Somerset cheddar called Keen's, which is more kind of bold and brash. And I see that as the brass section of the orchestra. And Monty's does have, it's a bit more reserved, a bit more balanced, so it's like the woodwind.
Right. So it's a higher
It's an
notes.
oboe.
Higher
Higher
notes.
notes versus
Yeah.
It's a flute with a cold.
kind of,
Yeah. Well,
the
also,
grunts, more
have you ever
grunts
met
and
a brass player?
They
brother's
tend-
one.
Right, so they're
I grew up with one.
quite red-cheeked,
Yeah.
you know, drink a fair bit, quite large.
That would be the pot calling the kettle black. With this cheese, we're going to have a delicious West Coast IPA from Garage Beer Co. We've got a video on them. You can watch at the end of this.
it out.
They make fantastic hoppy beer, mostly on the New England side. So when I had the opportunity to show off the fact that they can make lovely, clean, bright, citrusy, sharp beer, I jumped at the chance. And their labels, as always, are class.
Beautiful.
Sounds amazing. Shall I talk a bit about the Monty's?
Tell us more about the Monty.
You
while
will
we-
notice that so it's called Montgomery's because it's made by Jamie Montgomery in Somerset, but to its friends it's Monty's, obviously. His family's definitely been making since the 19th century, but with a name like that, which is a Norman name, and the farm's called Manor Farm. And William the Conqueror gave manor farms to all his blokes, you know, when they invaded. You know, I like to think that Montgomery's have been making cheese there for about 1,000 years. Anyway, they've been doing it long enough to be quite good at it. You will notice a little bit of blue.
A little bit of blue in there.
So this is the sign of a proper, authentic cheddar, which has been bound in cloth, rubbed in lard. Perfect balance.
That's how I want to.
I know. Do you want to be
treated
bound
as
in
well.
cloth and rubbed in
Yeah,
lard do you?
that sounds
while
nice.
eating
That's
a
a bit
church?
kinky, mate.
Yeah. It's not that
Sorry,
kinky.
I looked deep into Brad's eyes as I said that, which I did not mean to do.
I didn't know
That was
this.
horrendous.
I didn't know this was going to be this exciting. Should we try some?
Let's do it.
Just did.
I love your little Opinel knife as well.
It was given to me by a French cheesemaker up and out. I think it might be
Excuse you?
illegal. Well, you know, up a mountain, Johnny, a mountain.
So we've gone to a place that might be hard to come back from. It makes you salivate, like that rich,
So,
mature.
you feel that sort of slight tingle around here somewhere.
I love it.
It's delicious.
Amazing, isn't it?
Delicious. Like, this is so creamy. This is creamy as well, but it's got that extra
Yeah.
edge, hasn't it? That sharpness.
Yeah.
To cheddar.
You'd expect that sharpness to make the beer sweeter, but
Does it?
actually what it does is it makes it ultra clean. It's almost, it just cleanses your palate,
Yeah,
washes
it's
across it
Yeah.
like a barrel wave.
Yeah, it does that cutting thing, like you say. That is a lovely. That, for me, the intensity is great. It's bringing out all sorts of nuances in the beer.
Yep.
The bitterness of the beer as well with that.
It's just great,
That's
isn't it?
lovely, yeah. Party in my mouth right
Have
now.
some more of that.
So now we're going to dive into two classic British institutions.
Indeed.
Which is a Stilton-esque
Very
cheese.
good, Johnny.
I know my cheese history. and a London Porter. So tell us about the cheese.
So this is, it's called Stitchelton. It's an unpasteurised Stilton style cheese.
Which is why they couldn't call it.
Why they couldn't call it Stilton. So from 1996, if you make Stilton, you have to make it with pasteurised milk. And that's in its PDO, in its protected recipe that is, protected, set with the EU. When Joe started out, he's going to call it Knotlets, which is Stilton backwards.
I like it.
And they didn't seem to like that. And then he found out that the old name for the town of Stilton is Stitchelton. So this is the old Anglo-Saxon name.
Yeah, he's cutting underneath them, isn't he?
I felt that was a bit cheeky.
Yeah,
But they
more
didn't seem
cheeky
to-
than it backwards.
I think it's more cheeky, but they don't seem to mind. The other amusing thing is that Joe not only doesn't come from a rural background, he's originally an engineer who started making feta in Eindhoven. And also he's
Feta in Eindhoven,
Feta
great
in
indie band
Eindhoven.
name.
Same with that.
I was thinking a sort of like trance, but with a little bit of kind of German metal in it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or like Gabba music.
Gabba music with German metal. You like that?
The niches we go down on this
This is
channel.
good.
So with that, we're going to go to one of our favourite London breweries, which is Pressure Drop. Pale Fire is their famous beer, but they make lots of delicious, like more traditional styles, like Cast Iron Billy, their brown ale, Imperial Brown Ale, and a wicked, wicked porter. Just look at it. Look at the head on that.
God,
And it's
that's an
called
amazing colour.
Fashions.
It's dangerously brown.
Is it called Fashion?
It's called Fashion. It is, and it
Fashion.
quotes David Bowie on the back.
Look it
Fashion
up.
turn to the left, fashion turn to the right, like a little black dress. A classic porter never goes out of style.
That's clever. And that would be Porter in Stilton, or Stilton style, is one of my favourite
Yeah.
beer and cheese matches of anything matches. Of
So why does
anything.
black, roasty, dark fruit sweetness go so well with a salty, funky, veiny
God, I
beer?
don't know.
Jeez.
I don't know.
Well, let's find out, shall
Yeah,
we?
should we just
Let's
do it?
work it out.
Yeah.
So this cheese. Oh, hang on. What a big bit. Wow.
Quite salty. Blues are often more salty. You need the salt to control the bluing. You
Well,
don't
it just
want-
all goes blue.
all goes blue. You don't want too much blue in the
Michael
cheese.
65 situation.
Why do I think this goes so well? I think there's a lot of complementary stuff happening with the texture. The Stitchelton has a texture like fondant icing to me, and a good rich porter, a proper one of that kind of strength and, well, authority, has that creamy texture. So I'm just getting a massive load of creamy goodness.
Yep. I think it's also that real. So salt brings out sweetness.
Yeah.
So like when you salt a tomato sauce, what you're actually doing is bringing out some sweetness in those tomatoes, that kind of thing. And what it means is that beer is now really molassesy.
It is, isn't it? I'm getting a massive white chocolate thing.
There is a little hint of that. The
Do you know what I
creaminess,
mean?
is,
The creaminess
with the
is-
sweetness has become
Because
kind
there's
of
chocolate in
white
the
chocolate.
porter. I mean, not real chocolate, but a chocolatey flavour. So I think that something is happening with the Stilton to make it feel like white chocolate.
Yeah.
I said Stilton. Obviously Stitchelton.
And so that white chocolate thing you just mentioned, that's an example of the third place,
flavour.
the third heat, or the Radiohead effect. So Brad just said off camera that he's a little bit scared about this final match that we're going to do.
Terrified. I used the word terrified.
Terrified
And I
was that.
said, you should be.
You did. You're very menacing.
So we're going to bring out the barley wine, which is how all the best nights start and finish. From Lervig, it's one of the best barley wines in the world if you've never had it. Just remembered, I don't have a bottle opener.
I do.
You got one on you?
It's got a rubber fish on it though. Are you okay with that?
Sure.
It's a rubber herring from Stavanger.
Ah, love it. Yeah, they've got the herring museum now.
Wait.
How do you know
I've
that?
been
That's
there.
amazing
Been
knowledge.
there. Been- museum.
Guys, this beer is from Stavanger.
And this is a rubber herring from
been
And I
to
went,
Lervig.
I've been to the herring factory.
Are you what is going on?
Let's have a high five for the herring factory.
So this is a bourbon barrel-aged barley wine from Lervig Aktibrygge, which is Norwegian for craft brewery. And we're going to pair it with what?
So this is, it's a style called a washed rind. Washed rind cheeses divide the world a bit like Marmite, but more violently, into those who think it's glorious and those who don't understand
Stab
why
people that say
you
it's
would
glorious.
put it in your mouth, or I'll put the knife away now. This particular washed rind is called St. Cyra. Washed rinds are washed when they're young in salt water, and the salt water encourages this pink sticky rind to grow. It's actually a bacteria called Brevibacterium-linens, or B. linens to its friends.
That was goopy.
I don't
Looking
think
forward to
I'm
you
gonna
taking
take
a slice of that.
Yeah, I'm not going to take all of that wood off, otherwise something's going to happen. So they tend to make.
I believe it's called a splut.
oozy. It's called a splut. Yes, that's right. It's a Norwegian dialect word for spluty cheese. Yeah. Well, I'm not going to say much more. I'm just going to give some to Brad first. Try not to cut yourself.
You lovely human, you.
How's he going to take that from you?
He's going to gloop it off with his finger, avoiding
That's not going straight in my mouth from the knife. So
yeah.
there you go. Oh, I've got it.
Well done. Still got your fingertip?
Hey, he's got a smaller bit.
Yeasty. Yeah, really yeasty hit up front.
Yeah.
Which, by the way, one thing I love about pairing wash wines and beer, they often have that really intense yeasty flavour. Funky, barnyardy.
Big booze. It's a hot beer, this one.
Isn't it?
I'd probably age it a little bit so it's a little bit less hot, but actually with that, the alcohol cuts right through it. You're left with the sweet caramel, spicy berry note that's wonderful with an incredibly salty, smooth cheese.
I think the sweet and salt works beautifully. It's kind of like boozy salted caramel, isn't it? I'm going to have a little bit more. Do you want a little bit more?
Yeah, I'll take a little bit more. Thank you.
Brad, can I interest you in a little bit more?
Yeah.
What a good boy. Amazing.
So cheese and beer.
It's cheese and beer. Thank you so much for coming on the show. It's been an absolute pleasure. I've learned a lot about cheese and a lot about myself.
Excellent. I knew all of that already.
Yeah, we're going to go finish the quad and the barley wine. Cheers, guys.
Cheers.
Yeah.
I think the bit with the rubber fish was fucking magic.
I can't believe that serendipity.
So the reason